Kamu T-Rex, wala kulukanyan! Matalo pala, T-Rex mapipi! Awit naman! Likasu! Ipapli! Shapopo! Shambisi! Oh, it was fire!
Well, good evening. Welcome to the A&E Rugby podcast with Angie.
Hello, Elmer. How are you?
Yeah, all good, Angie. Myself, Elmer. You're at Twickenham, then, at the weekend. Working? Did you work?
I was grafting like a slave. Yeah, Twickenham, but I have to tell you, I'm sitting here laughing because when I was leaving, which was probably at about 8:30, there were a lot of drunken fans kind of making their way.
What time
in
did
all
kickoff
directions.
end?
Well, kickoff was at 4:30. So 6:30,
Ooh,
and you kind of give it an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And you know, there's the fan zone outside, and that really gets lively. But anyway, I'm walking up the road and walking back towards my car. And there's this, as I'm approaching, there's this guys, 2 or 3 of them, and the one guy's shouting the C word.
What?
But at this girl, and she's all distraught. And I thought, that's really bizarre, but they were really drunk. And anyway, I just thought I'll just carry on walking. Anyway, these guys turn around and walk, and I'm walking next to them. And the next thing, this guy behind us, he starts shouting, "Hey, big mouth! Hey, big mouth!" So we all turn around in unison, but this guy's got his eyes set on this guy that's been calling his girlfriend, I think, the C word. And he comes charging over. So I'm thinking, right, there's going to be a fight. I step back. Thought, right, I'll have a bit of UFC right in front of me. The guy coming towards us, protecting his girlfriend, well built, big muscular legs, tight jeans, looked the business. Now, if you can picture it, the other guy's now shut up. He's not swearing and carrying on anymore. All 3 of them are quiet. This guy comes, "What are you saying? What are you saying?" As he gets there, he's saying, "Yeah, you've got a big mouth, blah, blah." He trips. He falls down the pavement. He headbutts the guy that's been swearing at his girlfriend in the nuts. So he misses him. He completely falls over his own feet, headbutts him in the nuts, and he falls on the floor. He's lying on that. I mean, you've never seen anything like it. I thought, oh my God, if we were in Joburg, everyone would be embarrassed. So it was the worst fight I've ever seen, but the more I thought about it, the more I laughed.
Sounds more like Boxburg.
I know, just the way he tripped down the pavement. He came all menacingly and headbutted the guy in the nuts. Totally by accident. The guy's lying on the floor. I thought, right, time for me to leave. So it's not only at the South African stadiums that these things are going on.
Wow, well, how do I trump that? I mean, good grief. That sounds more entertaining than the game I watched. But we'll get on to the atmosphere and the event itself. That was quite a lekker weekend here, actually, with the rugby on, and Dorking were playing back at home, so we were
Top
there.
of the log again.
Yeah, we were there tailgating again with the Boerewors going, and a bit more of a vibe this time, and to the extent that even the Dorking coach, Elmer, he came over at half time after his team speech, came right over, gave us the thumbs up and said, "That's what I like to see."
Yeah, exactly. There's a nice South African flavour to it. Even at the bar, I mean, they've got biltong and all sorts, so they're definitely catering. Whereas I saw the pictures, look great.
Yeah, it's a good vibe, good win. Although most of the eyes I were with were not on the pitch in front of us. We kept looking into the boot where the iPads were and the phones, because it was the Scotland game, and that game was not short of incidents, as we'll get on to soon. But I'll tell you what, let's change things up a bit this week. We won't start with the news. We'll end with the news because there's some talking points, especially around the Springboks. There's a lot going on with the Springboks at the moment. So we'll start with the rugby itself, with the Six Nations, and let's start at the game you were at before the headbutting in the nuts episode and the and the C-bomb and all of those strange things. I've got to say, Angie, so I know you were working in some capacity, but you'd have still been able to soak up the vibe. The whole thing going up to this game, especially from Jamie George, was we're implementing a few bespoke things like a longer walk. There's going to be different music going. We're going to really create a really different vibe, and the team are going to be playing slightly differently as well. I didn't quite buy that, but what did you make firstly of the atmosphere and the vibe? Did you experience something that felt a bit different though?
No.
That answered that question.
No, that's a question. Twickenham was rocking. It was 82,000 people. I think like 81,700. We walked into the stadium. We'd come out of the Eric Bar, which is we sponsor the Players Bar, and we walked out of there to our seats, and it was buzzing. I mean, Twickenham's a stunning stadium,
I love it.
and it was
Yeah.
cooking. The vibe was really good. I was hosting a couple of clients. I wouldn't call it working. We were more socializing, having a good time. What was really nice is one of the clients was English and his wife was Welsh, and we had a fantastic,
mixed marriage.
fantastic time watching the game. There were lulls in the game where Twickenham was very quiet. And I was looking around trying to understand why it was so up and down. So the problem is it wasn't a consistent sound. It was just like very loud or very soft. But what I think really affected it was two things. One is the English team are dire at the moment and at times looked okay, but didn't really get the crowd going too much. And the other was around the way it was refereed. The ref, whose name I don't know, he didn't look familiar to me. I don't like the way he refs. Everything was slow, especially in the breakdown. So to set the scrums, do whatever, took ages. When I say ages, people started doing all sorts of things in between resetting of the scrums around us, and that has an effect on everybody sitting there and there was a lot of comments on it.
Angie, that's one thing I noticed. You were saying that initially about the referee. I was thinking, what's he on about? Yeah. But the scrum setting, especially, the whole essence of refereeing at the moment in rugby is to speed play up.
Yeah.
You know, that scrum setting off. All the scrums, both of them, were very detached.
Yeah.
They were taking their time getting together every single time, and it seemed to be taking 1 or 2 minutes just to set.
Much longer. So, the problem with sitting in the stadium is you don't have the commentators just chatting. So there's not a continuation. So you can think of the game stop, start, stop, start, stop, start. Whereas when you watch it on TV, it's very different because they start analysing, maybe they go back, they show something. So it just seems a lot more continuous. So there's a lot of stop starting. And the people sitting around us, I could hear them commentating and saying, why is this taking so long? What's going on? What's the ref doing? I mean, there was at one stage, they actually stopped the game for a few minutes. And I thought we were waiting for a TMO decision to come in, and eventually the game restarted. But yeah, it just took a lot of time, and it drained the crowd. It seemed to drain the crowd, especially in the first half when England were losing.
And that, the irony being, I mean, forwards are forwards, and they'll do what they've got to do. But it's it's a contradiction in terms of how both captains, both coaches wanted to play. With Gatland very much focusing on that Wales team that finished the second half against Scotland with a high tempo and the scrum half going, and with England too, Mitchell and was very adamant that he was, he's wise there. So yeah,
I was speaking to a
hear
couple
about
of
that atmosphere.
Yeah, strange.
And just on that, Angie, because the last time I was at Twickenham, you were there as well with the Springboks playing the All Blacks. Now, obviously, you can't compare England and Wales at the moment to Springboks All Blacks, but it was a full stadium, a carnival atmosphere, and both sets of supporters were joining into the songs. I remember them playing Beatles songs. There's Oasis and all, whatever, Stones, and everybody joining in, and it felt awesome. So I thought in my head it may be something along.
Wasn't like that. No, they played 2 or 3 songs and there was some noise. They had a group of guys that came out like a band, with a couple of instruments, and they would kind of blast it through a trombone, a trumpet, or whatever they are. I'm not sure of all the instruments. And they would play that and play it over the loudspeaker. And that happened 4 or 5 times. They cut back a bit on the music. What I did want to say was, so speaking to a couple of people after the game, an English guy, there was a New Zealand guy with us, and I said, what do you make of England? And they both said to me, well, England are rebuilding, aren't they? There's a lot of changes. And I turned around and I said, hold on, guys. There isn't. There's 1 or 2 people. There's Farrell and Courtney Laws that have left. Since the last 6 Nations, you've got almost the identical squad and that went through the World Cup.
You're right.
It's almost like people are, through journalism and Borthwick, and what they're saying was we're rebuilding. You're not rebuilding. You've now employed, like we spoke last week about Felix Jones coming in to coach the defence, who, by the way, was the South African attack coach, which was something I only picked up this week. So he's come in as the English defensive coach, being the South African attack coach, because Jock would have been the defence coach. That's even interesting. They're a team that are changing the strategy of the way they play, but it's still very much the same people. And what I kept thinking to myself was, because we always praise these guys playing for their club teams, is the Premiership just so bad that they look good in their club teams and just can't replicate it in the international scene?
Well, what I'd say is it's not bad. No, it's not as good as people think. It's very entertaining.
Yeah, that's probably a good way to think about it.
The league is starting to hemorrhage its best players. I'm not talking about English players necessarily, although Us want to go. I'm talking about their best players in terms of international players. They can't keep hold of them. However, what England have never seemed to do, and they're not the only nation who does this, but England in particular, they don't play partnerships that are established at clubs, and they play players out of position. They always have done, and not just in that sport, in other sports as well. If you think about cricket and back in the day with soccer and stuff, they do this a lot. So those combinations that are firing for clubs, like 8, 9, 10 Harlequins, for example, centres for Northampton, they just don't get it looking really. So I don't know how you're supposed to judge.
I'm a fan of Ben Earl, and we've chatted a few times about his celebrations, but I think he pipped them all. There was a scrum in front of us, and he celebrated a reset of a scrum like we celebrated the World Cup final. The reset of a scrum. It wasn't their ball. So it was a Wales reset. And he went into half five, Mario Itoje, and Mario Itoje just looked at him like, Ben, what the fuck are you doing? Celebrating like nobody's business a reset scrum to Wales.
Do you know what's the one aspect of his game I don't like? I really like him as a player. He got interviewed in the World Cup and they asked him about this OTT celebration, and he says it's just part of him and he needs to do it to keep himself energized.
Yeah.
So I kind of get it, but it's flipping annoying.
Yeah. I just find it a bit silly. But I get, like, celebrate. He gets everybody going. He had a fantastic game. I don't think he deserved match. Yeah, I know. I think Tommy Raffel should have won man of the match.
He was good.
What a player. What a player.
Back-to-back awesome games. Just on Ben Earl there, he's because he just wasn't getting picked by Eddie. He's established now as an 8 and a very different 8. He's not your big physical type, but he plays so dynamically that he gets across the game line, doesn't he?
He's, I wouldn't say he's not big and physical. He is big and physical. He's just short.
But dynamic, quick on his feet,
well,
elusive.
He should never have scored that try. That brought them right back into the game.
He got a helping hand, I know, but you're right.
Ding Hall or Wing Hall or whatever.
He should never have crossed the line. God, England got out of jail there, 13 men at 15. But going back to England, because you were asking people what you thought of them, what did you think of them in general?
They didn't change my opinion of what I've been saying since, I don't know, going back to the last Six Nations. They're all over the place. To me, they don't seem like a team that's cohesive at all. I don't understand what they're trying to do. Their backline is decent, but their forwards, are they trying to be an athletic pack? Or are they trying to be a power pack? They don't have the power pack. I don't know.
So the only thing I can see watching that, and I was thinking, right, who are you, England? Because I was expecting something different. And you kind of got it in the first half, because England started quite strongly from memory. And they had a penalty, they kicked to the corner, going for the line out. So I thought, okay, well, catch, drive, maul, try. They caught the ball, set up the maul. I said, okay, here we go. And then they peeled off and passed it, and the move broke down. And then they had a scrum shortly after that. And instead of going direct for the try line of the post, again they did this 2-man weird manoeuvre, and the ball's knocked on. They lost it, and saying, well, you're trying to do something different, but you haven't clearly got the skill set or combinations to do it. Why don't you just do the basics a lot? But what I did see all through the game, I did notice their defence was different. It was rushing up a lot.
It wasn't good.
And in patches, it was very good. In patches. For example, how they closed the game out the last 5 minutes or so, 3 or 4 minutes, where Wales, I think they needed a penalty to win, didn't they? And England were just pushing them back.
They weren't making any.
And they did something similar in the first half, but Wales when Wales were playing with width, especially with depth in their own half, they were getting round. And
I tell you what,
Tommy Raphael was even getting through
he
them.
was the best at breaking the line. I worry for England when they play Ireland and potentially Scotland, because Finn Russell will unpick them, because they're learning that defensive structure. I mean, Wales went around them, through them, and could have scored quite a few more points had they been a bit better with their ball handling. And I think they could get a horrible hiding from one of those two.
Because you've said that, the Rugby paper here in the UK comes out every Sunday. The headline on the front pages from Jamie George: "We're not far off the top teams."
I think he means in geographical distance. Oh, bless you. Because you can't be talking about rugby.
Okay. Well,
what do you make of that? He's not that daft.
He's a smart man, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he's a likable man.
He's very, but he also looks like somebody that has stopped at every single garage and bought all their pies and eaten them on the way to the stadium. Because
and the pasties too, and the sausage rolls.
Yeah, and the wine gums. Because, man, he doesn't look like a professional athlete.
One thing he's very good at, his line-out throws are very good. He's very good at his toss, but, we know where we're coming from.
He's always at the BP.
For a muffin. No, so I'm with you. Apart from the defence, which you could clearly see, though, that's a complete work in progress. But what are they trying to do? I don't know. I just don't know.
And another thing, I need to ask you this question, because I know you love him, but what is George Ford doing?
I thought he had a mixed bag.
A mixed bag?
Yeah, the weekend. I've heard people say that he had a really good game, but
you're kidding me.
I disagree. He got targeted again. They're not looking after him.
He did one good kick.
He did an amazing kick in the second half, but that was a glorious kick. But I'm not sure what he's doing. I'm not sure what the whole team are doing.
Let's talk about Wales, because we just go around.
Well, just one more in England, because Freddie Stewart was good under the high ball, which we know he's very good at under that high ball. He's super reliable.
He broke the line the one time right in front of us, and he came running, and he the defenders were coming across, and he tried to angle himself to head towards the corner flag to score, and that must have taken 7 minutes.
Well, he is that slow.
And then there's people calling for him to be wing, and I was thinking, I actually watched him. I kid you not, Elmer. He must possibly be the slowest person in that team.
It is weird that, because there's quite a swell of opinion here that want him playing the wing.
Yeah.
I don't get that at all. It'd be like a lock being moved out. I don't know, catching the cross kicks.
He's very good under the high ball, and he seems to have, at times, if he doesn't trip over his own feet when there's no one around him, he's actually quite good in close quarters. He didn't kick much.
Well, he's a big boy, and he can carry the ball.
He's the biggest guy in the team.
He's a big boy, and he can carry the ball. And as you said, you wanted to talk about the Wales players. If you go over to the Welsh players, George North, who is a similar stature as him, man, he can carry a ball. Can he? He can just run a direct line and take people with him.
He was making good impact, good tackling, broke the line a few times, had a few good offloads, tackled well. I like Tompkins. He's a good player.
He gets better and better each year.
And he's diminutive as well. And
he's aggressive though. He's a smally little...
But he's very good with his offloads. And he's always there. Do you know what I mean? He's like...
He's a menace.
He's like Quacker Smith. You know those people that always seem to be in the action? Like, his data points would be high because he's involved a lot in a lot of things. And a lot of positive things for Wales. He was very good. Wales, considering I don't even know how many caps they had, but very few.
Some of them look so flipping young.
Well, they do.
As in school age young.
But they have a massive Achilles heel. They don't have props. Their props, they make Jamie George look like long distance Ethiopian athletes because they are so overweight. Now, that's not a bad brand of jersey that's making them look like that. They just don't have props. Do you know that Gethin Jenkins,
Yep.
sorry, not Geth, Adam Jones,
Yeah, Harlequins coach.
yes,
Yeah.
he's a big man. He
Still
walked
is. He's even bigger now.
Well, he walked past us twice. He was sitting quite close. And they need that type of person. There's just nothing like that. The guys that are in there, I don't even think potentially would make top club sides now in terms of where they are. So they're a team that fight tooth and nail and make it very difficult. And like Rassie said, those fuckers don't go away.
And no, they don't. And the thing is, they fight tooth and nail. But what they're doing, and they've done this in both games, their discipline is phenomenal. They didn't give one penalty away in the first half, and in the second half, they only gave away
There was four.
a handful.
Four in the game.
And so okay, you can kind of coach that, but it's easier said than done. But then you've got
Not with young guys.
no, that's what I said. It's easier said than done. But then you've got I think we both agree who the man of the match should be.
Yeah.
In Tommy Raphael. But you think, well, he must be taking risks. Perhaps he's not. Perhaps he's that good. Because he wasn't pinged at all from memory.
No.
He was turning over balls for
Brilliant.
fun, slowing down the racks.
Brilliant player.
And then offensively, he was contributing. So,
The one thing that I would say England did very well in was scrums. They literally put
they've
down
got the
and
experience there, haven't they?
well, is it because they're good? I mean, they got turned over inside out and back to front by a few of the teams in the scrum. Wales don't have props. This is what I'm saying. And they look very, very young in the front row. You know what? When you have young guys that come in like that and they've got those baby faces, that doesn't strike fear into anybody.
Not a
Can
prop.
you imagine? Can you imagine?
You want a 31, 32-year-old.
Grizzly, ugly, hard-looking,
Yep.
person that you want to take with you to a bar fight.
Reassuring,
And those young kind of pink-cheeked doughboys are not going to do well. They will struggle. France could do a demolition where it becomes the Matt Williams observation of dangerous for the team.
Well, you say that, but France need to have a game plan which involves scrums because they just don't like scrumming for whatever reason. They've got the bulk. Why avoid?
Why pick the biggest
it?
players if you don't want to scrum?
What a waste!
What are we missing here?
I don't know. It's weird. We'll get on to that though. But Tommy Raphael, I've written down the ones that caught my eye here. So George North, Tommy Raphael, Nick Tompkins, you've mentioned, Rio Dyer as well.
Yes.
He's a fast boy,
And he doesn't
quite
give up,
astute. No, he keeps it running. Yeah, he's a dangerous player. Looks the part. Looks about 14 as well.
He does, and he looks a good athlete, and he chases everything, and he does it for all his worth. I liked him. I was surprised. Mason Grady, I think it was Mason Grady. Again, I was sitting in the stand, but he came on at wing for Josh Adams, and he's big. He's bigger than Freddie Stewart. He's a big guy.
Like a George North type.
Bigger than that.
Wow.
Bigger, thicker. You remember he had such a shocker when he played against us.
Yeah.
He threw the ball over the back of his head, and
Let's
Marnie
go to
said,
try
"Thank
and
you
Cardiff.
very much."
Thank you.
Yeah. And also, else is a big guy is the winger for England, Freeman.
Yeah, and he's
Jeez,
on
got a
form.
proper physique.
He's on
but
form.
He just didn't get a chance. And Wales were quite clever. They put it over his head a few times. He had to turn, but I didn't see much of him on the front foot. Wales, I mean, for a country that's got 3 million people, they look decent, but they might want to get on to who in South Africa or the Pacific Islands has a grandparent that come from Wales. And there will be a few.
Interestingly, after the game, Warren Gatland was adamant that this team are going places. Not anytime soon, but he said because they're so young and because they're keeping games tight, they're learning.
But this is also the guy that's astute enough to call out that the game shouldn't be forward dominated because he just has nothing to pick from. Talk about being see-through and wanting to change the game to suit yourself. I don't know whether it's clever or just being a dick, but certainly trying to protect his players.
Okay, well, let's hear what the voice from the Cape thought about the game.
Again, not a hugely entertaining game at all. What I will say, though, a lot of positives for Wales. My matchup of the weekend was Thomas Williams versus the Mitchell boy from England. I thought Wales are a team on the up. You can see there's plans being sort of executed. They're a little rough around the edges, but once they get it to work, I think there's something they can build on over there. With England, not hugely impressive again. Same old stuff. You can see they're looking at new things, but still Ford for me, again, they picked on him again. And everyone in the world knows that he's a soft shoulder over there. But England, I'm not usually impressive. I don't even have anything to say with regards to what I think of them, but not usually impressive at all.
Spot on.
Yeah, pretty
Spot
much.
on. Do you think somebody like, we kind of hail Rassie now. Do you think he'd be able to do something with England?
Well, yes, I do. I don't think he'd necessarily turn them into world champions.
Well, they've got 2 wins out of 2.
They're on for the Grand Slam, eh?
Yeah, that's it. And the media will be saying they're going to win it, and Jamie George thinks so. So who are we to know any differently?
Anyway, so a good time was had by all. Did you enjoy it?
I did. I had a fantastic time. I did enjoy the atmosphere. It was great. I enjoyed people I was with. I really thought it was very enjoyable. It's just enjoyable to go when you don't have too much skin in the game. I won 10 quid off one of the guys I work with. He said to me, England should win this easily. I said, they won't win by far. So he said, they'll definitely win by more than 10 points. I said, all right, put your money where your mouth is, and I won a tenner. So,
okay.
Yeah. We do know something on this rugby pod, Elmer.
Absolutely. And I won money, thankfully, this weekend. Unlike last weekend, all my bets came on.
Really?
So,
good
what a tri-course. So,
good for you.
England to win, France to win, and Ireland to win, with the Irish fly-half winning man of the match, just to bump up the odds. And sorry, not man of the match, to score the first try.
One of the guys I was with, he had bet France to win by 4. I said, he hits it square. I said, what made you think that? He was like, I have no idea.
Oh, that's a good link. Well, let's go to Murrayfield, because that was actually the game before. Did you watch it? Were you able to watch it at all in Twickenham?
Very intermittently. We were sitting having dinner. I was chatting, or lunch. I was busy chatting away, and the screen was behind me, and I kept on turning around to have a look, and looked like Scotland were doing good things, and France were really struggling. And then again, we get to the end, but maybe you can talk a little bit more about kind of what was going on in the game before we have a chat about the ref and the decision.
Actually, the first half, I mean, we were watching obviously at the rugby club ourselves, but it was drawing us in. The first half, Scotland were very good, very good.
Scored early,
good tries, looked good, defended well. But here's the but. With 15-10, 5 minutes to go before the end of the half, they were ahead by a score. They were all over France. They were camped in the 22. I just couldn't get French. The French were conceding penalty after penalty after penalty. In Scotland, whatever they were doing wasn't working, and you're just thinking, well, why aren't you taking the 3 points here? You will regret this. All these points on offer, and they just didn't. They didn't take the 3 points.
The French give away a lot of penalties.
But France, you're thinking, well, you should be out the game. But so they come into the second half. They've done nothing. I mean, and from what I saw, the French were appalling under the high ball again. I mean, that's really been highlighted to the world, hasn't it, since the World Cup? Well, I wouldn't say they're appalling against the Springboks. It's just we put the right men in the right positions, and saw something.
How? So in my books, the match against France versus the Springboks in the World Cup is the best match I've ever seen in my life. Okay, so that's 2 games ago for the French. But they seem to be a shell of their former self. And there's not huge changes.
No.
I mean, okay, Dupont's out. But with the way they play, that shouldn't make that catastrophic difference.
No, there's one thing I did find out, but again, it shouldn't. Should it be that significant? The scrum coach has changed. The scrum and forwards coach has gone. So they've got a new
still got the
scrum
same
and forwards.
scrum. I mean, Willie Antonio, who
Which they
retired
rarely
and then
use.
came back.
They don't go to it. They don't play for scrums.
Yeah, well, apparently the coach went and had a private word with him, and he came back. I suppose you don't have people with those dimensions that can play rugby. But how do you regress so much?
I think just maybe just that huge hangover, the huge disappointment, and not being able to just motivate to get right up to those levels again.
Do you think it's more psychological? It must be. It's more psychological than.
Of course.
There's a learning there. They should have got those guys together for a couple of days and let them soak through that defeat before they got together for the Six Nations, so that they came in without that hurdle to cross while they've gone in. Because
the second half was weird because Scotland, positive front foot rugby the first half, wanted to play. The second half, Scotland didn't want to play. They were just happy just to contain France. And you think, well, why have you changed? What's got you in front, you know? So there was an inevitability all through that second half that the French would score. We were all saying, well, the French aren't doing much at the moment, but it doesn't take them long because of the power they have and the exceptional players. It won't take much just for them to score a try.
There's a moment in them that can change a game very quickly.
Yeah, of course, and they've always been capable
and
of
how
that.
did the Scottish forwards fare against the
Yeah,
French
they did
forwards?
well. They did well.
Because the
and
Scots
Pierre
don't have much of it.
No, Pierre Schumann was flipping hell. He was
Getting better.
Yeah, I mean, he was taking some weight.
Shoo!
As they say, the Scottish beast. Except he's not Scottish, but we'll
him
get onto that as well.
Fergus.
Finn Russell, he seems to be a bit guilty of this. Halfway through the second half, we had this passage of play that seemed to go on forever, where the stadium were booing, and it's this DuPont law, isn't it? It's raised its head again, and even the referee was just coaching, stay static, almost as if he's encouraging it. I'll tell you what, referee, don't coach the players to stay static. Let's break this cycle of cut kicks and someone infringe so we can have a penalty or something. And the stadium being, and it was appalling to watch. And, you know, you've got millions of eyeballs on this sport at the moment. People who only watch rugby at this time of year only here. It's phenomenally popular here.
It's like 6 million viewers.
Yeah. So we get through this passage and we think, well, you're almost pressing the, the suicide button here. And inevitably, France produce a moment of magic, score a try. And then Scotland, what do? They decide, well, there's 10 minutes left. We have to play now. And they look great again.
How brilliant was that Scottish try with Ben White? There was some fantastic handling there. They scored down the right-hand side. I saw that.
They're slick, aren't they? They're slick.
Yeah. It's almost like, like you said, when they're playing against France, you just know how potent France. It's like when we play New Zealand. And you just know that they can kill you in 5 minutes.
Don't sit off them.
Yeah. Don't think, we're ahead here, they're having an off day, because next thing you're 14-0 down. Remember the first game in the 2019 World Cup that we played against them? And they did that to us. The first 14 minutes, we should have been 15-0 up. I don't even think they got out of their half. 5 minutes and they buried us with 2 tries. France are capable of that.
All that said, and me moaning about Scotland as we all were, they scored a try at the end into added time, and it wasn't given. I'm yet to meet anybody or hear anybody say that was a try all day long, and it pissed everybody off who was watching it at Dorking, watching this. You know, who had there was no Scottish supporters there that I could see, or there's people who are quite partial to France actually, but that is just ridiculous. And as I was just saying, you've got all these eyes on this rugby game. There's millions of people watch this, they love it. They can all see that was a try. You've got the coaches in Scotland up in the gantry celebrating because they know it's a try, and then the language coming through is, I think it's held up, but no, that's a try. Yeah, it actually looks a try. And then it's not given.
So there's 2 things for me there, actually 3. One is having watched the whistleblowers and seeing what these refs go through, what they put themselves through, how they prepare. Genuinely nice guys trying to do the best they can with a good job. I look at it a little bit differently now. So the 2 things about that for me, in my view, that was a try, because there's no ways, by the shape of the ball, you could see it had to be on the floor. It couldn't be on a foot, couldn't be on an arm because of the shape of the ball. I would think in a situation like that, we usually favour the attacking side. So that should have given them, for 100%. Me, pushed it over the edge. The other thing is, we now have gum guards in people's mouths that can say, you take a tap on the head and all this. How can we not put technology in the ball that says it's on the ground? Do you know what I mean? Like we just, it's there, we should use it. and sort this out. 'Cause there was a try. Yeah.
Well,
And
my argument, Andrew, would be the technology was there at the weekend and it showed it was a try. So why are we saying it's not a try? Firstly, you could see the ball on the knee when it was off the ground. Then you saw it drop a level.
Yeah.
Once it dropped the level, what else is there? It's not the sky, is it? It's not the moon.
It
It's
was
the
a very
ground.
strange one because the TMO was told him it was a try. Then he talked him out of it. Nick Berry kind of went the other way.
Yeah. And then you saw another angle where the ball was on the grass. You could see that at the back, touching the grass. But just interesting to read here in this rugby paper what the Scottish coach Townsend said. He said, so we were celebrating in the coach's box, having seen the pictures of the ball being placed down on the try line after having been on the player's boot. Townsend said that was also hearing the communication to the referee from the TMO to say that the ball started on the foot and then went to the ground. The ref then says, I can also see that on the ground. Then their last interaction was, hang on, let's look at that other angle. Yeah, it's inconclusive now. Stick with your on-field decision. It was TMO driven. I mean, it's just a farce, that is. Why does it have to be, okay, show me an angle where it's completely on the grass. It doesn't have to be that 100%. We all know that was a try. Yeah. And what decisions that the TMO make anyway? How many decisions are 100%?
I agree that the TMO should keep quiet. He shouldn't be influencing because they're looking at exactly the same picture. There's a massive screen there. Why is the TMO, why does he have an opinion? It's the refs. It should be the ref making the selection. Again, it was one of those situations. We got it wrong. I have no doubt in my mind that the refs put everything into getting it right. But in that case, it actually becomes
common
like
sense.
a case study for what you shouldn't do. It's actually a good view of what you shouldn't do.
And common sense has to come into this because it's decisions like this that can slowly strangle and kill this sport of ours. And when you combine it with others like that kick fest where the stadium were booing in the second half because of that ridiculous law, and that ending there, the kick fest, and then you've got it didn't happen in the game, but the non-malicious tackles that result in a red card.
It's so easy to rule that out. All you can say is you can't kick directly to a player in the opposite half twice, going both ways. Boom, done. So you can kick once, twice, three times, then it has to change.
But so there's a huge part of me thinking, well, I feel sorry for Scotland. That's completely the wrong decision. Scotland, I'm conflicted with Scotland anyway. I have been for a few years, and I think I was telling you earlier that only 10 of that 23-man squad are actually technically Scottish. So, what are we doing here? It's even, I know in the World Cup they had slightly more, 50-odd%, but 43% of that squad
are Scottish.
Yeah.
It's
so they're not representing the nation. They're not representing the Scottish systems of schools, whatever. So
it's worse than that.
So it's hard for me now to think, why am I...
So how do you, as a young Scottish guy wanting to play rugby, think you can get into that side? It's actually completely detrimental to all your grassroots structures trying to bring people to 43%. You got 57% there with different accents. Half of them are English now as well. I was looking at kind of what that's it. Guys aren't making England, they're coming across to Scotland. Yes, there's a lot of crossover with grandparents. It is within the laws. But how do you bring youngsters into the game when you've got 43% chance of making it?
And they've been doing this a while, and they obviously have to do it. Otherwise, Scotland ceases to be a tier 1 nation. But
they're not a tier 1 nation, theoretically.
But they're not. And this is a whole new debate.
Look at Ireland as well. Look at Ireland.
Yeah, they don't have the numbers Scotland do, but I'm going to start digging now. So over the next few weeks, maybe once an episode, I'll bring a country up, and we'll see what's going on. And off the back of that, Scotland have just recruited Exeter's Namibian-born tight head on a 5-year deal. 5 years. I wonder why it's 5 years. He's 25 years of age, so he's naturalised off.
But what was
today
funny as well was Faye Waboso, who was on the bench for England, never came on. Well, I didn't see him come on.
No, and you predicted that, didn't you?
Yeah, I thought they'd cap him, but...
Right, enough of that. Unlucky Scotland. You won that game, basically, but And France, gosh, lack of scrums, poor under the high ball. Maybe this is it. Maybe they had to scramble a win just to kickstart them
Well,
back in.
good teams have ugly wins. Man United used to do it all the time.
Oh, here we go. Oh, this is going to be difficult. So, Ireland v Italy. So, Ireland whatever, Italy nil. Did you watch it?
I did.
Okay, so I had
I
it
got bored
on.
with it, though.
I had it on whilst I was brine, but because I struggle watching these games, I was listening to it, and it was interesting what I was picking up on, and I've noticed this for some time now. So I'll let you speak first. Go on.
So Ireland looked fantastic. I mean, some of the handling and some of the structures, and the what they call now
Crowley
the
won me
shapes.
some money. So
Yeah, Crowley.
Try.
I mean, looking fantastic. But some of the offloading, the fact that the ball never died. When a guy's running down the back line, there's so many bodies in movement in different angles. Very difficult to defend against. And Italy they actually did quite well in terms of their defence to keep it down to that, because Ireland could have gone into 50, 60.
And Ireland made plenty of changes, haven't they? But don't Ireland remind you of New Zealand in terms of whoever they're playing, they're ruthless. They put them away. Whereas other teams don't, or we're guilty of that a lot.
Well, they just don't slow down, do they? It's wave after wave. Ireland also looked very good in their forwards. Their forwards looked fantastic. Hey, they were dominant, they were big, and they've got the handling skills of the backs.
And Sheehan in the loose is cheap.
Yeah, he's a good player. And Irish rugby is really, really in a strong place. I'm very interested to watch them when they go out to South Africa on the dry pitches, the dry, fast pitches. They could wreak havoc out there with the style of rugby that they play. And we'll have to be on top of our game. I'm worried about the fact we won't have played before we play them.
That could be a big
They look. There's a big gap between them and anything else we've got in the Six Nations in terms of teams.
Yeah.
They're just going to rout it.
It'd be a shock if they didn't win the Six Nations.
If they didn't, it would be like committing suicide for your own team. It's very difficult to see any other outcome.
And your thoughts on Italy?
No, I just think they tried. They defended well. They're playing against potentially the best team in the world, especially on form, and they struggled. There's a big gulf between them.
Let's see what the voice from the Cape.
I want to comment on that if I can.
Yeah, go for it.
So I was looking into those CRC deals, and the one that's with the Six Nations. Okay, the CRC, they bought a part of the Premiership. I think they bought 24% of the Six Nations. Now, the rules under that deal is that there's no teams going up or down. It has to be kept as it is. So they can't change that. That was the structure, and it showed the differences in the amount of money that each of the different countries got. I did make some notes here, but
like a cartel.
One of the rules was that they can't change. Just hold on, this is the South African one, but I've got it here, and I thought it was quite. I mean, England were far and away earning the most. Yeah, so England received 95 million. Welsh Rugby Union got 50, Irish 48, and Scottish 44.5. But there's a set of rules. So they are saying that there's an idea that there's a desire to see more emerging nations. No immediate promotion or relegation. So that won't be happening. Fan-centric, there's some shit they've written here that doesn't make any sense to me. And then the other one was that they said they will be moving away from, or moving to, a pay-per-view style. So what they're doing is, they say they're making it a lot better and investing in it, but actually making it by default, the access to it to less people. So
less people, and those people who do have access to it have to pay more to get that access to it. That's
and they potentially aren't the market you're trying to bring in, because they're the ones that are going to the game.
Yeah.
So I think that whole structure of that deal.
And those who have the rugby paper, there's another bad article, well, a good article, but it makes you wonder why they did this
I
deal.
feel like we've been very negative this weekend.
Well, here we go then. Wait for this. You think that's negative? because Italy, because do you know, Andrew, Italy didn't get in Ireland's 22 once, not once in the whole of that game. That's just appalling. Oh God, I was fed up with those in the World Cup. I thought they were an absolute disgrace to their profession. And what I've noticed for some time now, I think you get lost watching it, but I didn't really watch it this time. So I was braaiing and, you know, and I had it on the TV by me, but I was listening to it. And one thing I've noticed is nobody criticises Italy, whether it's a pundit, a commentator, anybody. They all speak in the most glowing terms about them, whereas they don't with Ireland. If Ireland make a mistake or other teams, they're on them and they call a spade, if you
But that's
like.
an ITV directive, I'm sure.
And this has got, but what it reminds me of, it's not just RTV, it's with BBC, it's obviously the BBC, it's across the board. And at first I thought, this is very patronising, really, because it's as if the Italians are boys and they're playing against men. Well, if that was the case, you can understand it, but they're not. They're professional male athletes, big men who should do some damage to people and play the game well. This weekend, just listening to the dross that was coming out, it strongly reminded me of cultural things that are happening now and have been for the last couple of years, where let's say certain politically correct groups, certain perceived minority groups are getting a step up, a free pass in life, preferential treatment. You slag them off, you're going to get cancelled. That sort of it came across like that. And I heard commentators slightly challenging one another when they started to get a bit negative, so you hear things like the endeavour was brilliant, look at the line they ran, what a shame he dropped the ball, and for about the fifth time, and the kick, there was the kick to the if only you could have put it closer, and someone like Flatman would say and then they said, but there is swirling wind, and then Flatman would say and then no, there's no wind today, there's no wind, and then the commentator said but it is gusting, it's gusting, and so there's a constant drive to turn a negative to a positive to those, and that is not helpful for Italy, not helpful for them. They are cuck, they are seriously cuck. Gums is right, lots of people
like
are right.
It's almost like a quota system.
Exactly. There needs to be jeopardy, and and in terms of CRC and investment, there's been a suggestion recently that if they finish bottom, which they of course they will, have a big playoff game against the top team in the next tier. Do it over 2 legs. Advertise the hell out of it. Pay per view, whatever. Make it a really big thing, because in all likeliness, Italy will win that game anyway. In all likeliness, they might not, but you can't go year after year with teams like Georgia always above them in the rank, always below them in the rankings, and other teams below them, and they get this golden ticket and cash, and they do nothing. So I'm just really annoyed with the commentators, the culture around it, which is not helpful. It's not helpful, and it's not the rugby I grew up with, where gosh, and the rugby, any professional athlete or any rugby player, when they go in after a game or the Tuesday or the Thursday as we used to, and you analyse what happened at the weekend, punches are not pulled by coaches. You are singled out, and if you don't own it, you're out. You are out, and that's the culture we live in, isn't it? So I've had enough. I'm not going to watch them again. I'll listen to them occasionally. I've just had enough with them.
Wow,
so there you go.
Elmer, I've been trying to get you off the ages.
The only was I had the pizza oven out. So on the braai I was doing pizzas. So
how ironic.
They keep adding little stripes and whatever to that multicoloured rainbow flag. We'll get the Italian rugby flag in there as well, because they've earned that. They deserve to be in that flag now, and get it on their shirt.
LBGTTI
plus Q plus Italy.
There we go. Sorted.
I don't feel better for that.
No, but call it needs to be called out, and it's not only you and I that think that. You know what I mean? People, you have to be daft if you don't see it. So
it's not good, is it?
No, it's not good.
It's not good. And when Italy play, if they're at home, we all watch, don't we? You watch the first 20 minutes. Let's see what they can do. Who honestly? Italy away at France today. Let's go. Should we all go out and watch it?
Exactly.
Okay, well, That's that. Six Nations takes a break next week. Just a quick read of the results that did take place in the Tier 2 in European competition. Georgia back on winning tracks this week, 31-10 against Holland. Romania beat Belgium, 33-18. Belgium beat Georgia last week. Portugal 54, Poland 7, Spain 27, and Germany 5. So all pretty predictable. Also on the Friday night, Bristol lost to the Crusaders. And there's lots of other friendlies going on.
I thought they won.
Exeter played Scarlets. There's about 10,000. There's quite a few friendlies, and they need to, because they need the money, these clubs. Before we go into the news, the URC is back this weekend.
And wonder who's playing again.
And I was thinking, so with all the South African teams can really make hay now, can't they? Against these weakened European teams. But no, it's the SA derbies. So
Bulls, Lions.
Lions, Bulls at
Ellis
Park, and Sharks play Stormers at Kings Park. Many would say Lions are unlucky not to win at Loftus. So do you expect a Lions win, or do you expect a tight game again?
Yeah, I expect a tight game again. The Bulls' quality, I see Moody and Orenshaw back. I think they'll be too much for the Lions.
Okay.
The Lions had their opportunity and the ref stole it from us.
Okay. I'm going with the Bulls. I've already put my Super Brie bet on Bulls by 5. I've also gone Stormers by 5, even though the Sharks are playing at home.
Where is it?
Dublin.
I'm going to put the Sharks down for a win. I'm going to put them down to come good finally and relax the Stormers.
I hope you're right, Angie. I hope you're right. And
I hope they're not playing Cohen Bosch.
Well, they will. They've got no choice of that. Other fixtures: Scarlets play Munster, Zebra play Edinburgh, Leinster home to Benetton, Cardiff Connaught, Glasgow Dragons and Ospreys play Ulster. Ospreys, who've drafted in a load of Cheetahs players. They've got a relationship with those. I think it's 3 or 4 of them have immediately come over and play for the Ospreys in that.
No, you sure
in that game.
No, good for them.
Yeah, so on to the news. A few snippets to talk about, but then there's some real meaty news that's really come up over the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Isn't it?
Yeah, so just news in general, some transfers that are interesting. Cobus Visa is leaving South Sharks. He's going to the Bulls. Now, he's a good age, 26, 27. And he's going purely, he's saying, with Springboks aspirations. And that's pretty good, because you were asking a few episodes ago what locks have we got out there in terms of depth, and he didn't even cross my mind. He's not someone that crosses my mind in the UK when you watch Sale much. But
yeah, and he's still very young. That's interesting. I thought he was older, because he seems to have been around for a while.
Yeah, another one that was a given. So Jan Serfontein.
Yep.
I mean, gosh, do you know, yesterday I was watching highlights of a 2014 SA New Zealand game at Loftus. Can you remember with Francois Hugot? He went through, and it was Serfontein on the floor. He popped him a pass, and he went under the post. I was thinking, gosh, how old was he then? He's only 31 now.
No, he's like 19, 20. Remember the under-21s, he was player of the tournament, came shining through into the Springboks, and he got injured and then just disappeared off to France and never came back.
Yeah, so it's pretty much a given he was going to the Bulls, and at the last minute he's pulled the plug on it.
Yep, stayed at Montpellier.
I'd imagine that's the money. But, yeah.
Interesting that he never then was given an opportunity for France. Although his dad would have killed him.
Yeah.
Staying dead.
Victor Matfield, he's going with Eddie to Japan, so but good on him. He'll earn some money there and burn himself out after 2 years.
The dynamic between Eddie and Victor, it's an interesting one. I think Eddie probably respects Victor. Having worked with him when they won the World Cup. Yeah. Victor's more clever than that. He's not the best pundit I've ever heard in my life on the TV, but when I hear him interviewed and speak, like on pods and that, he's brilliant. And his knowledge is excellent. I mean, I don't think I've known a better 5 for dominating the line out. John Eales was kind of similar.
Oh gosh, what a
you
player he
know,
was.
and what was his name for New Zealand? But I think he's 2 or 3 names that you can mention in the same stratosphere as Victor in the lineout. No one even. It was so ridiculous when they played for the Bulls. Even when they didn't throw him the ball, he won it. He's excellent. So it's a good piece of business, I think, for Eddie Jones. The only problem is Victor Matfield's going to be quite difficult for him, using those Japanese players that are 4'7" to jump in the air. So they must have another tactic.
Indeed.
Remember what they were doing? They wanted such quick ball that they were actually throwing the ball into the line out at waist height. Remember, so the lock would jump, but they would throw it at his waist. So he would be in the air, but he'd catch it at his waist and give it to the scrum half. So it could go down the back line quickly.
Really relevant what you've just said, actually, because one of the 2 big news stories over the last couple of weeks really has been Rassie Erasmus and him assembling the new coaching squad, coaching outfit. We talked about it 2-3 episodes ago. We were responding to rumours, and we were talking about who this Tom Brown is. We could both remember him, but didn't know Tony Brown, sorry, but not much about his coaching credentials. And there's the Munster guy that Rassie was with, Flannery, and now you've got Dwayne coming in full time, and a very interesting one was the Yake Papa who's coming in as well. But just talking about Brown himself, Shawn The Nose now has sent something through, just updating us and the listeners just a bit more,
and he knows
about his a little bit more about his credentials, which are very much related to Japan.
Hi, Springbok fans. My thoughts on Tony Brown as a tax coach for the Boks. I'm super excited. I've been a big fan of Tony Brown ever since his playing days, back in Super 10 days, I think it might have been. Really, really chuffed. A little bit about Tony Brown. He played for Italia in the Highlanders on and off from 1995 to 2011. And in that time, they get a downtime whereby he was allowed to go and play for the Senior Wild Knights in Japan. I think he played with them from 2005 to 2011. In that time, I remember him coming to the Sharks. He only got eight matches, but I just remember him being such a creative 10 and bringing a lot of skill, and our backline definitely scored some amazing tries, of which I think that they took on until the 2007-2008 season. You could definitely see he had left his mark behind. He then went on to the Stormers in 2008, and I think this is when he met Rassie, because Rassie would have been head coach at the time. He managed to play for the All Blacks. He got 18 caps. There's a lot of pedigree there as a player. I always remember him playing for the Highlanders with that blonde curly locks and his distinctive place kicking attributes that he had. On the coaching side, he has a load of pedigree. He started in 2011 playing for the Senior Wild Knights in Japan as the assistant coach. In 2012, he moved to Italia as their coach, and he has coached Italia and the Highlanders from 2012 until 2017. 2018, he moved to Sunwolves in Japan. In 2018-2019, he was the Japanese assistant coach, and we all remember how brilliant the Japanese attack was in that 2019 World Cup. I think that's when he made his mark as a coach and a tax coach. And then from 2019 through to 2022, he's been the Highlanders coach again. So he's been back in NZ. And I distinctly remember Henson trying to get hold of him to come and coach the All Blacks as the tax coach in 2019, and Scott Robinson being very interested in him as well. So I think Rassie has planned very well here going forward as an attacks coach. He brings in something completely different and new. He brings all this pedigree from all over Japan and New Zealand, And with the talent that we have in our backs, you know, you just look at Willemse, Moody, Orense, Labok, Polly pulling the strings, you know, crikey, who've I left out? You know, I just think it'll be fantastic to bring somebody new in like this, and bring some massive energy and some fresh ideas into our backline. So I'm super chuffed, very excited to see, and let's see what happens come the Irish, you know, that are touring pretty soon, and how interesting to see the Boks take on the All Blacks, which will be his fellow compatriots. Anyway, that's me over and out. Have a good week, chaps. Ciao.
Yeah, thank you, Shawn The Nose. Now, and because I've been struggling a bit the last 2 weeks, because I can only really remember him playing, and I had to think, even then I had to think, oh yeah, he's at the Sharks, but as well as the, you know, I was wondering why people like Shawn, and when you watch the what's Jean de Villiers' program, is it Box Pass, is it Box
Office,
Office, yeah, and all these people are saying things like, I'm really excited, this is, I think, what, but just Shawn mentioning there, just the Japan team alone in 2019, that says all I need to know.
I know,
really,
that ignites my excitement.
Innovative they were,
I agree.
and with you talking about it just before that, with creativity in the line out that you were talking about.
You know, you look at this, and Rassie is so clever. I heard,
Isn't he?
I heard that his deal with Flannery was done a year ago. So that deal has been sitting on. He knew Jacques was going to leave. He knew he needed somebody. He worked with him at Munster. He worked with him, Jacques, Felix, and Flannery were the coaching
Felix
team.
was there.
Yeah, together. All four of them. And Flannery was the other one. So Rassie knows these people long term. They put in shifts. He set it up that he comes into the fold. He is replacing when he knew Jacques was going out. So, you know, so clever and such long term ahead planning with really good people to bring in. The other one that I think is really intelligent, and I know people have dabbled into bringing in a ref to kind of be an SME for you and part-time, but to actually bring Jaco Piper in as a full-time member of the team, I think does take a new dynamic on the coach. It's kind of like, remember when they said, oh, you need to have like a skills coach, and people are like, what's a skills coach? What are they going to do? And then they brought that lady in that was so good with
the eyes,
eye hand coordination. We go and win a World Cup, and you bring people in that you know help, but you bring them in long term. And I think it's an excellent thing to bring. Not only do I rate Jaco Piper, like I said, I watched that whistleblower documentary on Rugby Pass yesterday, which is fantastic. And
he's a proper whistleblower.
Yeah,
he doesn't.
and how dedicated those guys are to their craft. I mean, what it meant to him when he got injured, he was broken. He's so upset because these guys are trying to reach a pinnacle of the sport. I think he'll add an extra dimension to the way that we play rugby. You know, he'll have his ear in and his connections into the reffing panels and, you know, those forums. But I think one thing you can't do is you can't coach people to be like much bigger and much more skilled. You can teach them these things, but the thing you can teach them is not to give away penalties.
Discipline.
Exactly.
And if that's part of, you imagine that on a coaching field day in, day out. So every time you have a training session where it's, you know, offensive or defensive draws, whatever, you've not only got the coaches in your ear, but you've got Jaco Piper.
You overlay it with another level of intelligence to give the players.
And he's quite authoritarian, which suits SA as well. He's not one of those who lets it go. He's on you.
And as you can imagine, he's fully bought into wanting the Springboks to win.
Because I remember just before the World Cup, there was talk about, I think it was going to happen, I'm not sure what happened, with Nigel Owens coming on board with the Springboks.
Didn't quite work out.
No, I remember talking to Lut, and he was saying, no, I don't think it actually happened in the end. But I remember thinking at the time, well, it's a good publicity stunt anyway, isn't it? But it's very sensible. And that to me excited me more than any of them at first. But I'm really enjoying it. I'm not sure what Dwayne's role is, but as long as he's involved in some capacity.
I'm hearing that his role is more of an alignment role. So,
Okay.
hangs out with the Springboks, but then takes that ethos, training, understanding of the game plan they want to play, and pushes it back into the younger structures.
Brilliant.
So he's
Brilliant.
yeah, exactly.
So it's joined up.
Exactly.
Okay, well, need you talking about. I'm now excited. Thank you, Shawn. I'm now excited about this. I'm really keen to see what we do. Not just this year. I think it'd be more telling next year, won't it? The next couple of years. Final big story. I mean, Anwar mentioned it to me last week. The Voice from the Cape.
I don't think we should get into this
dear.
today. I think we should do it on the next pod and put some time into it, because it's not only now that it's South Africa that this CRC deal is happening. It's happened with English rugby. Is the knock-on effects of that, and it's not wonderful. They've done it now with the Six Nations. They've put money in part of the
Premiership.
structure. And I was reading that with the Springboks, their deal is the CRC organisation actually owns the product, and Saru is then a partner in all of it. And it's just worrying for me. But I think we need to potentially move
I tell you
on
what,
and talk
I
about
agree
it
with
next
you, because I think you can't talk about this without talking about the Premiership, the Six Nations,
Exactly.
and a bit more about the history of their success or not success in other sports. So we may do that later in the week. We'll have a chat. Maybe just do a one-off show about that. Okay. Well, a pleasure as always, Angie.
Yeah. Great one. Thanks, Elmer.
Yeah, we'll
Still
meet.
wearing that thing above your lip, huh? The Benoni police station get back to you yet?
Yeah, I'm still living in the 80s and 90s. I need a nice blue uniform
And a motorbike.
and an old Ford Cortina or something.
3 litre. 3 litre.
There we go.
Cool. Just
Okay, well, yeah. Cheerio. Bye-bye.
The clock, Miami, now look on your arm. Marks, Mapiti, a cable direct, well, like look on your arm. Marcelo Polo, direct Mapiti, Orange Lemon, Mikasu, Hip Hop League, Shampopo, Shambisi. Oh, it was fire!